In this lesson, we're going to create the camera follow script. All right, so let's go ahead and create our new script. So we're going to right-click, Create, New C# Script, and let's call this Camera Follow. Hit Enter, and then double-click on that to bring it up inside of MonoDevelop. And let's get started. So what do we want this camera to do exactly? Well, we want it to go ahead and follow our ball. Now, inside of Unity, we could go ahead and take the main camera and we could parent it to the ball. And that would be okay, but we're going to notice that there's a problem if we do that. If I hit play, you'll notice that the camera begins to rotate with the ball, and that would make our players very, very sick. So what we need to do is we need our camera to track the ball's position, not necessarily its rotation at the same time. So let's go ahead and unparent the main camera. Let's simply left click and drag that away and place that back outside. So let's go ahead and take the camera follow script and let's track the position of our ball. So we need to get the ball's the game object of the ball itself. So we need to set that as a variable. So we're going to say public game object, and we're going to say player, and we're just going to hit a semicolon at the end of that because we're going to actually get what the player is here in just a little bit. Okay, and then from here, let's go ahead and create a private variable, which is going to be our camera's offset. Okay, so it's basically going to be getting its position, and it's going to set its position to the ball's position. So we're going to say private, because we don't need to expose this to the designer or to the editor. We don't want anyone to mess with this value. Now, whenever we're dealing with position, transform position, the camera could be in one X position, a Y position, and a Z position. So anywhere in space. Okay, so we need to make sure that we're using a type of vector 3. So remember, vector 3 is looking for an X, Y, and a Z value. And in those X, Y, and Z values, it's looking for a float X, a float Y, and a float Z. Okay, so we're going to say offset, and that's just its variable name. Now, inside of our start function, we want to go ahead and we want to initialize who the player is. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and say player equals game object dot find game object. Now we're looking just for a single game object, not multiple game objects. So the game object we want to find with tag is player. Now remember, I already have the ball game object set up with the tag player. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go ahead and go back into Unity, select the ball, and you'll see right here, tag is set to player. So if you remove that list or drop that down, you'll see that player is one of the default tags that's already in here. All right, so now what's going to happen is as soon as this script starts, it's going to find who the player is, and it's going to attach that right here inside of our variable. Perfect. So now that we have that, let's also go ahead and get the offset. What is the offset itself? Well, we're going to say that it is the position of the camera. So the camera is actually going to have this script on it. And so all we have to say is offset equals transform dot position. Okay, so what position? The position of what object? Well, it's going to be the position of the object that this script is on. So in this case, the camera. All right, perfect. So now we have that set. Now what we want to do is we want to update the camera's offset or its position based on the player game object, which is our ball. So we're going to do that in our update function. Let's go ahead and start typing that in. So we're going to say that the transform position of this object is equal to the player transform position. So player dot transform dot position multiplied by the offset. Okay, the offset of this game object. Okay, so now that we have that, we want to make sure that we are updating this position properly. And so using the update function is okay. It's going to update at kind of a sporadic rate. So every single frame, that's dependent on the computer's frame rate. And so it could be a little fast, it could be a little slow, and so we want that to be a little bit more at an interval when it updates. And so one way of doing that is to use the fixed update, but this is going to be using it on every physical step. Okay, and that would match the ball, but I think using late update would be a little bit better, because late update is going to check to see the position of the last frame, and then it's going to update that to the next frame. Okay, and so it's very consistent when doing this and very smooth. So now what we'll do is we'll hit Control S to save that, and then let's go ahead and attach this to our camera. So inside of Unity, you'll see here we're getting an error, and it's saying Vector 3, Unity Engine Vector 3, operator multiply. And you know what? I don't know why I multiplied that. I need to add the offset. Excuse me. So let's hit Control S to save that. Let's go back into Unity, and that error should go away. Perfect. So now let's go ahead and hit play, and what we should see is our camera following our ball. So let's go ahead and position that. Oops, and we forgot to add that to the camera. Let's go ahead and add component. Let's go to scripts and then camera follow. And watch this. The player game object, notice it says none right now, but as soon as the game starts and the script is enabled, you'll see that it switches over to ball. And so now our camera is following the ball. All right, great. Now I want to go ahead and I want to move that camera a little bit. It seems like that's a little offset. Okay, so it doesn't really look all that great. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. It looks like it's centered right up on our ball object, but something seems to be a little off about this. What we can do, I'll also notice that my camera is set to orthographic projection because we're using the 2D view. It seems like something's a little off about that. Let's go back to our 2D. Let me go ahead and lead the ball just a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and we'll hit play on that. Now it's going to match the transform position of the ball. Yeah, that's okay. It's not too bad. I don't like that I can see below my background. I may have to lower that down a little bit more. Okay. Now you may be wondering why the sky color is matching that background when it doesn't look the same in the scene view. It's because my camera's background is actually using that color. So to do that, you can simply choose this picker and then choose the color that you want the background to be drawn as from your camera. So now what I can do is I can move my ball around, and it's moving through this, and I'm just going to hold it down and position that. The ball's flying through the air. Let's hope that it lands in the proper position. Looking good. And then if I go ahead and move that, and then we're just launching that up. Oop, looks like we didn't quite make the ramp there. And it looks like we got another chance. Look at that. All right, so now we can go ahead and we could get going really quickly. There we go. Let's hope that we make it over that little hump. And we did. Awesome. So now I'm just going to launch into the finish, and there we go. All right, so now we've got our movement, we've got our camera movement. One thing that I may want to do to just kind of tweak things a little bit is go ahead and take the background objects, so the background elements, and I'll just position that down a little bit in the move direction. And we'll go ahead and we'll push that down. There we go. And so now we won't be able to see below the line there. All right, great. So now that we have our camera follow, let's go ahead and add just one more element to our game, and let's add in some coins. So something that we can collide with and something that we can count and show that that's being updated in the UI itself. So we'll get started with creating that next.